One, two, three. We want to welcome everybody today to Mom and Dad Talks, where our favorite two people are Mom and Dad, and we got a full guest suite today. We got Mom, we got Dad, we got Sister Lorretta, we got Hantie, we got the Blantons, we got the Cartiers. The Carters, for some of you don't know, but you know, I bring them on here from time to time. They're so classy, I have to call them Cartiers. But today's subject is going to be very, very interesting here, folks. And it's going to be about self-sabotage. Now, for those of you who don't know self-sabotage, I'm going to give you the definition, and then we're going to go from there. Self-sabotage is when you undermine your own goals and values. In other words, you acknowledge that there's something out there you generally want and believe is good for you, but then you do things that directly conflict with that goal. Okay? And, you know, I'm not going to tell you all about this experiment I did last week, but I work sometimes with people in situations where even if they are shown, hey, if you clean your act up and just change right now, everything's forgiven. They don't want to change. It blows my mind. And, you know, I brought my special guest, Mr. Carter, because he works in this profession quite a bit. Can you just start us off here? Why does that happen with someone that just, even if they say, hey, look, if you just stop what you're doing, everything's good, I'll give you the money, they're still going to go back and do what they do again? Explain that mindset to me, sir.
Well, again, whenever we're talking about human behavior, we need to understand it's complex. It's not a simple answer, or human behavior is always cause, but there are many things that cause us to behave the way we do. And when you're talking about self-sabotage, and you're saying, well, how come a person doesn't want to change? Well, it ties into their belief system. I work with people who oftentimes may abuse their kids, or they're involved in dysfunctional behaviors. And let's say your kids have been removed, have been placed in foster care. Most parents want their kids, right? So the court says, well, you need to do A, B, C, and D to have your children home. And you would think that most people would follow those simple things. You got to give up the drugs, or you got to stop beating each other, or you need to provide a safe home environment. Why don't some people do it? A lot happens with their belief. They don't believe that they could do any better. This is who I am. I've had a bad temper all my life, or this is how I was socialized. And change is scary for people. A lot of people don't believe they can change. So a lot has to do with your belief system. And then there are people who don't care. There's some people who, as I said earlier, their main desire every day is to just survive and get over. So if I can con you or take advantage of you to survive, that's all I want to do. They're not concerned about tomorrow or the next day or what's going to happen. They just want some immediate gratification. So changing and growing and becoming a better person and developing a better character is not really what they want to do. And self-sabotage is that self-fulfilling prophecy where you know something is bad for you, but yeah, I should give up smoking, or I should give up doing this negative behavior. But you know what? I'm not willing to give the effort right now. Or they want to procrastinate. I'll get to it later. And a whole lifetime goes by. But it's complicated, and it's not very simple. This is why therapists are in business. So, you know, people come back to us over and over again because sometimes people go to therapy and they're not ready. And then you see that person come back 2 or 3 years. They've just had enough. You know, I've gone to rock bottom. I'm so tired of being in rock bottom. I had a client tell me last week that a year ago she would not have benefited. Our help would have been no benefit to her at all. But she says, no, I'm really ready now. I am ready now. And the last thing I'll say, that's why I learned, there's one thing I know about people. People do what they really, really want to do when they're ready. So people that you know, Todd, who are self-sabotaging, they're doing it because that's what they want to do. And change and growing and being a better person is not on their radar, really, not yet.
Mom and Dad, anybody else, what do you want to say? Because that man, I almost can drop the mic and say the show's over. That one.
That's a tough one to follow.
There's a tough one to follow. But would anybody else have any thoughts on that? Because it's a fascinating thing to me. But a lot of people, especially now, I mean, a lot of bad things have happened to people to cause them to cope, to have these bad habits to help them get over it, but it's destroying them at the same time. And you see it in various forms. Yeah, go ahead, Dad.
You know, that reminded me of a good friend of mine, Chuck. I'll call his name Chuck. Chuck was an excellent painter. He could paint a car and make it look gorgeous. But he had one bad habit. He smoked one cigarette after another, a chain smoker. In fact, he would smoke a cigarette, light another cigarette, smoke it. And he must have smoked a good pack and a half a day. He was a heavy smoker. Well, finally, Chuck got emphysema. The doctor placed him on oxygen. He wear oxygen mask. I go visit him. When we would visit, he would turn off his oxygen tank and smoke a cigarette. And he would smoke a cigarette. Well, finally, Chuck died of emphysema. But he just could not help himself. But he was the nicest person in the world.
And that's the heart of it right there. You said you could help yourself. It's different thing when we're talking about addictive behaviors. This is why we caution people to be careful to avoid behaviors that become addictive. Because when you are involved in an addictive behavior, you have really lost your will. I'm sure Chuck knew that cigarettes were bad for him. He didn't want to smoke. But like Richard Pryor told you, Richard Pryor locked himself up in his house trying to stay away from the drugs. And what he said, the drugs kept calling his name. Wow. They just kept calling his name.
Yeah.
When you get involved in addictive behaviors, you surrender your will. And these things can dominate you. So that even when you don't want to do it, you do it because you've lost your will. The only people I see who overcome addictive behaviors are people who are able to say, Lord, I need your help because I can't do it myself. Only people who come into a spiritual awakening and are now living through God's power can give up whatever that addictive behavior is. Because on our own, addictions just dominate us.
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
Go ahead, Aunt Nancy. Go ahead, Sister Carter.
It just brings to mind some things that I learned when I was in graduate school from this professor. Basically, when they told folks that cigarette smoking would kill them, it would cause cancer and that kind of thing, they just knew that cigarette companies were going to go out of business because everybody was going to give it up. And when they found that it didn't, they were just astonished. So they did some studies, and what they found was that if the risk does not outweigh the benefits a person feels they get from this thing, they're not going to change.
Yeah, that's right.
They're not going to change.
Wow.
If you want to have immediate pleasure, then worry about long-term results. I want the buzz right now. I don't care about tomorrow. I'm here right now. I just want the buzz right now.
Wow.
So that's what she's saying.
Wow.
And the bad thing about Chuck is he was coughing and he would cough up blood. He was in bad shape, but he still had to smoke those cigarettes.
Hantie, we're going to go to you real quick. What do you want to
say? Real quickly, I had a hard time identifying with this subject today because either I've experienced it or know someone, and I guess I just was not there. But something that Spencer said was addictive behavior, and I had to apply that to myself. And my addictive behavior came years ago when, I thought that my husband was making more, money that I could go out and buy a pair of shoes. My buying a pair of shoes turned into addictive behavior.
Yes, it can. Yes.
And so that's the part of today's subject that I could somehow identify with, and it I don't know whether it took his death to make me realize buying another pair of shoes ain't gonna do it. It's not, and it's not the amount, because I'd always go to the sale rack, you know what I mean? That it was, I felt like it wasn't hurting anybody or anything. But I can't get another pair of shoes in my house.
I think you bring up a great point here before we get ready to close this. We're gonna have to probably bring y'all back to talk more about this and addictive behavior, because this is a great conversation, folks.
Yeah, it is.
Bobby Brown said the only thing that kept him from dying from drugs was the fact that he ran out of money before Whitney ran out.
Wow.
Yeah, I really don't think people today realize that you got to watch the addictive behavior you have. And there was something you said about Mr. Carter we talked about earlier. I wish I would have caught that. Sorry about that, folks. It was a great discussion beforehand. But Mr. Carter, you brought up the point about habits, and I want to end with that thought there. Talk about why it's important not to create bad habits.
Well, there's a saying that says our thought, we got to be careful. The Bible says, guard the avenue of your mind. Our thoughts become actions, and our actions become habits, and our habits become character. So we've got to be very careful about what habits am I practicing, because the practicing of habits reinforces my character. And if I start telling a little bit of a lie here, or it's like shoplifting, you go into the store and you get a little item because it's no big deal.
And you got away with it.
Got away with it. So then you get bolder and you pick it. It can escalate. It can escalate. So the caution is we've got to be careful with habits. And unfortunately, most people don't live their lives with self-examination. We always just, I'm fine, I'm okay. But to really look at, Michael Jackson said, look at the man in the mirror. We don't like to look at the man in the mirror because we don't want to do self-examination. Most people say, I'm all right, I'm fine, I'm who I am. But that's not the way, especially for people who are claiming to be Christians. We should always be in the process of self-examination with what God says we are and who we are and how we are measuring up to who he is, and be willing to let him bring about the change that we need to have in our lives. It's not good enough to say, this is who I am. I've had this habit all my life. Well, that habit is, where's it getting you?
Yes.
It's hurting you, it's hurting your family, it's hurting everybody about you. Isn't it time to give up that bad temper? So, yeah, but we can talk a lot about that.
Yeah. And so, like I said, we're going to bring y'all back again, because I think we need to explore some other things about this that you brought out, some things here, because this is a long discussion, and a lot of people out there today are self-sabotaging. And before I leave here, if you find yourself in this reckless habit where you want to stop and you can't, get some help.
Yeah.
See a therapist, life coach, pastor. Get somewhere to get some help that's positive for you. That's not negative. Because a lot of people try to do this self-medication stuff, and that just buries you deeper into stuff. So anyway, we're going to end on that note there. Anybody have any other thoughts real quick before we end today? Okay, well, I guess we'll end on that thought, folks, that if you find yourself in this insanity cycle, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results, get some help right away. All right, so next time we'll see you again on Mom and Dad Talks. Thank you all for coming, and hopefully next time we'll bring them back again there, because we got some more to talk about.
Yeah. Everybody saying bye.